All right. What are the three best contracts for small businesses? We get questions about small business contracts all the time, and there's a lot of confusion out there, right? Because government contracting is complicated, and small businesses, especially if you're just starting, may be thinking along the lines of B2B or B2C and just aren't aware of the differences in selling to the government. So today we're going to talk about three contract types that you can pursue as a small business owner. These are going to be the types of contracts that the government would issue to a small business. Now, if you have a business and you are selling products and services or technology, we are going to use that to help identify the best means of the government purchasing from you. But if you're a business owner that maybe you're starting a business or you have a business, you don't know what you're selling yet, well, you want to wait till option three, because that's where we're going to get into how you can set up a very lucrative business in or utilizing the government contracting expertise. So that's going to be number three. So we'll stick around for that if you fall into that bucket. Now, let's go through what government contracting is, right? US government is the single biggest purchaser of goods and services in the world. Most small businesses are not selling to the government, even though 23% of their spending goes to small business contracts. So it's actually, of the 36.2 million small businesses in the United States, it's less than a quarter of 1% that sell to the government. So we want to understand government contracting if you're a small business owner, because this could be an additional stream of revenue that could really increase the size of your business, and also offset, fluctuations in the economy and whatnot. So what are we looking at here today? Well, I mentioned first, hey, we want to decide we want to actually look at what your business is selling. And we want to see if the US government is actually making purchases based on what you're selling. So what do I mean by that? Let's take a look at, I just ran a quick search. This is usaspending.gov right here. This is where we can see federal spending, right? So this is where we can see how much the US government is actually spending on whatever it is that you buy or sell. Now, I ran a quick search here just using the word sauna, right? So let's just say that you happen to be a company that sells sauna equipment, or you are installing saunas, or you're helping with the maintenance and whatnot. Is government contracting even a good place for you to be selling? Well, we need to actually look at the numbers, right? Now, this is just a quick search, but we can see there's only 37 contracts here, right, for sauna, right? And maybe you're having a hard time seeing my screen, but so all the public data we can see, all the government contracting data we can see. This is different than any other type of sales. So before you even get started, we want to verify the government actually buys what you sell. This is going to help us decide what type of contractor or what type of contracts are even going to be available to us. So look, this is over the past 5 years. If I only see 37 contracts from the government, I'm thinking this may not be a great place for me to actually focus, because it's a lot of work selling to the government. And then if I look at, I can see who's doing the buying. 1 million over 5 years, not a lot. What about year over year? What are we looking at here? 681,000, 1.5 million. You may be saying to yourself, hey, that's good, right? It's really not. For government spending, like when we're seeing under $1 million each year, only 37 contracts, probably not a good place for your business to be focusing. Now, on the other hand, I ran another search before starting this here. If we are looking at something like courier and messenger services, right? Let me unclick the small business button there. What am I seeing? Well, I'm seeing, what is this? 13,494 contracts over the past 5 years, right? And we could see how much spending. We can see that the VA spent 489 million, DOD 119 million. These are actually still relatively low numbers for the government, but still you can see we've got a lot more opportunity here with these type of services. So my main foot stomper here is, before you get into government contracting, if you're new, take a look at the actual number of contracts that are available, or that have been awarded in the past. And there's some other things that we can do as well, right? But once we verify that the government's actually spending, right, they're actually spending on what it is that we're selling, well, then we can I would say, confidently approach the federal market. Now, there's a few other things here that we're going to want to do, right? So, all right, we've verified that the government buys what you sell. Great. So, how does that translate into the three best contracts, right? Well, the first type of contract that we are going to talk about is the prime contract. So, a prime contract is a contract that is between a small business and a federal agency. So, if my business, right, so I own GovClose, our training and certification program, if my business puts a proposal together, wins a contract with the government, well, I'm now a prime contractor. Okay. So we're going to be looking at prime contract awards for your business. Now, how are you actually going to win a prime contract? Well, again, we're going to go back to the data because there are a few things here that we really want to understand before we even think about selling to the government, because this is a journey. It could take 12 to 18 months to actually win your first contract, right? And that's a long time. What kind of things do I want to do before I approach selling to the government? Well, I'm going to run through a little checklist with you here. I want to understand who are the top offices that are actually buying what I sell. Okay, meaning I don't want to know just that because we went through USA spending already. We took a look at, all right, there's 14,000 contracts that were awarded over the past couple of years. We could see there's enough funding for us to potentially start looking at selling to the government. I want to know not only the offices, I want to know that, hey, maybe the Air Force is at the top of the list. Who buys from businesses like me? I'm a small business. What is the exact office? At what base? Who are doing the purchasing? How are they actually buying from a business like ours? How competitive is it? Right. So these are all questions that we can answer. And as we start layering in more and more information, right, well, then we can kind of reverse engineer how to actually sell to the government. Right. So, a data drill that I might do is, again, I'm going to share my screen with you guys here again. I might want to look at, now this was when I was looking at saunas, right? But this is just going to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So I can see here that it is the Department of Defense that is at the top of the list with 27 awards. I could see the Department of the Air Force is the sub agency, but look, these are individual offices, and I can see, how many awards. Now, this was part of the research I did to determine if a sauna company should be selling to the government. Now, eventually we decided that probably not enough there, but I can also see the average number of offers, which is 6.7, which isn't so hot, right? But I can see it by office. I could see some of these offices. When there's only one award, it's a little bit harder to, make a good judgment call. But if it said 67 awards with offers and the average was like 2.1, well, now I got a little bit better idea of what I'm looking at, right? So for the prime contracts, we are going to do some extra research. We're going to look at which offices are doing the buying. We're going to look at how they're buying. So are these publicly competed contracts? Are they sole source awards? Are we looking at things like blanket purchase agreements, simplified acquisitions? We could see some of this just using a free tool like usaspending.gov, which we looked at the beginning of this live stream. Now, that's great, Rick. Not sure that really tells me how to get the prime contracts. Well, again, this isn't an in-depth on how to win them, but we wanted to talk about the three contracts that you could win as a small business, right? Now, I will give you, one big clue bird here as far as what you want to be really concentrated on when you are finding opportunities to bid on. The key here is, and this is the biggest mistake companies make, you don't want to be finding solicitations, right? You don't want to be finding solicitations on sam.gov, like an RFP or an RFQ, and just writing proposals, right? That's not how companies successfully win these prime contracts. The way we do it is, now that we know the top three offices that are buying what I'm selling, we can now reverse engineer, not only how they're buying, but we can also start taking a look at their acquisitions forecasts, right? And we can do a few other things too, like we can find a source to saw it, but we want to find the opportunity way before, as far ahead of the solicitation as we can. And this is going to be true for most contracting efforts. Now, how am I going to do that? I'm just going to walk you through it here really quick. Let's go back into sharing my screen here. This is sam.gov, right? So this is, if you're new, this is where you would actually register your business, right? And there's a whole, entity registration. It's kind of hidden here. It'll walk you through the whole process. But if I'm searching, if I want to find, this is just one way to do it, one of many ways. If I want to find that opportunity ahead of the solicitation, I'm going to search, I'm going to contracting, I'm going to look for a source of sought, go to the drop down menu right here. Bang, a source of sought comes out before the solicitation. This is where the government is going to be actively looking for the types of companies that can do some of the work, but B, a lot of times this is what people don't realize. Oh, by the way, my name is Rick Howard. I'm a former government acquisitions officer, and I spent 20 years in the Air Force. I've been involved with awarding a lot of contracts to companies, developing the requirements, getting the funding, all of that in my time. And I can tell you that often, we would get a requirement. Let's say it's a cybersecurity requirement, right? Well, you might not be, meaning I might not be an expert on cybersecurity. So I need to talk to other businesses. I need to see what is in the realm of possible. What's the latest technology that we could use? I might talk to my engineering staff. We might talk to like MIT Lincoln Labs, stuff like that. But also, we can learn by putting a source of sought out. So you can see here in these sources sought, so when do they do? In January. Again, so just so you know what this is not the government saying we want a proposal. This is the government saying, hey, we have funding and a requirement, and a solicitation is probably going to come out. But right now, we just want to ask you like some questions, right? Like, what can you do? And what is in the realm of the possible? Can small businesses do this? Can women-owned small businesses do this? This is, by the way, also part of often how we select set-asides, meaning like, hey, if I want to restrict access to even bidding on a contract to small businesses, I need to make sure at least two can do it. So as a source of sought, I need to make sure that, multiple small businesses are actually out there and able to do the work. And by the way, this is another key for you guys, anyone watching right now, this is one of the things small businesses skip all the time because they think it's a waste of time. Oh, well, I'm not going to get a contract from it, so I'm not going to engage, right? And they see more value in writing a proposal. But often those companies never, ever win a contract. Remember, it's about 0.25% of all small businesses actually sell something to the US government, right? The ones that are doing it consistently and killing it, they're responding to these. They know how important the relationship is with the government acquisitions office. So they know who buys what they sell. And trust me, when I was on the government side, the companies winning all the time, they were in my office all the time, setting up meetings, responding to sources sought, going to industry days, extremely important, right? This is not just write 1,000 proposals from your desk and see what happens, right? That's not the way that you want to approach this. So really quickly, if I skip on any of these or I click on any of these, January 26th, they're all kind of the same here. And I shouldn't say they're all kind of the same. They're same in the sense that there's going to be some questions in here that they want you to answer. You're going to submit, and you can frame what you're submitting to the government in something like this. I can make suggestions, right? And another big mistake companies make is when they're writing a proposal, they'll say, "Oh, the government's not asking for the right thing, so I'm going to tell them what we do and how it's better." But what they don't realize is they'll never win. They'll never win the contract that way because once a solicitation comes out, the government has already set its criteria for how they're going to grade each proposal. So they're asking you for very specific things like, "Hey, we need a software tool that does this and can support 17 people." And, I might be a company that's like, "Oh, you don't need 17 people. You only need 3 people because our software is so good." Well, when they submit that, they're going to be downgraded. They're not going to win the contract because they're not putting in there what the government's actually looking for, right? They have skipped the most important phase, which is the phase we're in right now, market research phase. This is where you can tell the government they don't need 13 people. They need 3, not when the solicitation comes out. Okay. All right. Let's see here. As we go down, we can see here we have the contact information in the office, right? So remember, relationships are important. And so now we have a point of contact that we can reach out to. And now we have by the way, this is an office that buys what we're selling. They have money and a requirement. And remember, government contracting is the long game. Okay. You're going to be at this for a while. So this is great. Just this is worth coming in here. But now, look, we have some attachments in here. I'm not going to go through all of these, right? But it's going to give you a lot more information on what they're actually looking for. Here it gives you kind of an overview. Let's see, DoD Common Access Card enabled, enterprise file search, NIPRNet. It's going to tell you. It should say when it's actually due. Response date is January 6th. And again, with this, you can give them as much or as little as you want to. But I do recommend answering all of their questions. It's probably going to be in one of these files like that. But that's where you can get an idea of upcoming opportunities that are before pre-solicitation for whatever it is that you're selling. Okay. Clear as mud. All right. So that is prime contracting. And that was the first type of contract that we're going over for small businesses. We talked about what your business is selling, right? Now, next, I want to talk about this right here, subcontracting. This is also, by the way, if you've never sold to the government, but you have a business, you're selling products and services, technology commercially, but you haven't started with the government yet. Subcontracting is often the path that companies first take into public sector, aka selling to the US federal government. But it might not be done the way that you think. You can see a little preview here. We've already talked about prime contracting. I'm going to go over subcontracting in detail here. And then we're going to talk about the third, which is if you aren't selling anything, but you're interested in government contracting, well, consulting can be a really great path. Okay. Now, we did that little drill with prime contracting in the research to look at who's buying what you sell and is there enough actually being bought. And I'm going to rush through these because I've already covered it. But to determine whether you even could be a prime contractor, right? But even if you determine that you could be a prime contractor, subcontracting may be your first step into this realm. And so, how are you going to do that? Well, I want you to not make the mistake a lot of companies do when they first learn about subcontracting. And by the way, let's just talk about what subcontracting is. Subcontracting is when your business has a contract with a prime contractor. We just talked about prime contracting for a few minutes. Prime contractor is the company that has the contract with the government. They eventually probably wrote a proposal that was accepted by the government. Now they have a contract, but they need someone to help them with that project. Well, a subcontract would be your contract with them specifically to assist in some way with the government work. Now, as a subcontractor, this can happen in a few ways. The way that if you're approaching this as a sub, what you want to be is named in the proposal if you can. So there's a record that the government knows that you're going to be doing work on this contract. Let's talk about how you're actually going to become a subcontractor. What's the best way, in my opinion, to do this, right? Okay. So we can see here's a federal agency. Here's the prime, right? And in subcontracting, this is you. You're over here. So the prime's kind of between you two. Now, this is not a middleman. Don't confuse that. The prime contractors, in most cases, is doing 51% or more of the work. They're going to hold the contract. And the method I'm going to tell you of actually a good way to do this is actually going to put you a little bit more in the driver's seat. Often a subcontractor over here complains that they don't have a relationship with the federal agency, which is extremely, extremely important, right? Because often the prime contractor is the one with the relationship. But this is how I want you to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to identify the opportunity early. Okay, so remember, we just talked about how important it is, even for primes. This is a theme that runs through all of our training. By the way, you can go to govclose.com if you are interested in anything that, we are training on. So we have a 1-year training and implementation program. You can check it out, govclose.com on your own. Identifying the opportunity early is almost always the right move. And in subcontracting, it absolutely is. So going back here, right, we were in sam.gov. We were looking at all of these sources sought. If you guys have any questions too, as we are going through this, feel free to just put them in the chat. These are all sources sought that we found, right? So these are pre-solicitation. So meaning when I say find the opportunity early, these are all they're just sitting here ready for you to click on them. These are all early opportunities. See the response date. These are sources sought. You can click on them. It's going to give you when they're due. It's going to give you the questions that they're looking for you to answer. A lot of times it's going to be included in a PDF, and then you're going to answer according to, um, you know, not only are you going to answer their questions, I should say, but you're also going to be able to tell them about your business. And you can do this. You can use this as a subcontractor as well. And what do I mean by that? I exam room equipment. I'm not an expert at this, right? It doesn't matter though, because let's say I want to put together a subcontracting um, plan together, right? How do I win a subcontract for this opportunity? Well, what I might do is find this, right? So I know what do I know about this? I know who the contacts are, right? And I can click on this and I can see exactly what questions they're asking. I can see what they're looking for here. So I'm going to reach out to one of these contacts. I'm going to read through all this. I might have a couple questions about the sources sought. And then I'm going to go to USA Spending. And who is this with? This is with help me out here. Here we go. Health and Human Services, right? So I am probably going to look for a company that is that has sold already to Health and Human Services, right? Using whatever, NAICS code they're planning on here, which is 339115. And if you want, I can go over how to do that. Actually, I'll show you exactly how I would do that. Right? Okay. And by the way, what am I doing right now? Now I'm finding your prime contractor. Okay. But Rick, they're not on contract yet. This is you don't. So what we don't want to do is just find a bunch of prime contractors and email them and spam them. That's a way not to win a contract. This is the way, and it takes longer, right? But this is the way you're bringing them an opportunity. Okay. And by the way, since you find the opportunity and you're emailing the government office already and maybe calling them, you already have a relationship with them, right? Very important. So let's say I want a company that has at least a contract in the past couple of years with this agency. And I think it was Health and Human Services, right? There we go. And I want to say that I think I copied the NAICS code. Find out right now. Yep. Oh, and that's saying no results. That's got to be wrong. Here we go. Okay, what is this going to show me? Again, I'm in USA Spending, guys. All right. What this is going to show me, see all of these are all companies that have sold to HHS in the past couple of years. So any one of these potentially could be the prime contractor. I'm going to pick, 4 or 5 of them. Some of the companies that I think, and by the way, I can see, you can click on any of these companies and see how big they are. You might not want a super huge company. So this one did what, 17.1 million, 444 contracts in the past year. You got to decide. Oh, it's a pretty good growth curve, huh? By the way, you could see, talk about researching your competitors. Like you can see a lot of information for free, especially when it comes to government contracting. So I can see what are they doing? 20 million a year. Let's say that I put them on the list, right? So what am I doing? And I'm going to do 4 or 5. But when I go to Melling LLC or whatever, when I'm done with my research, maybe a couple others in here, I'm going to bring them. I'm not going to give them the sources sought, but I'm going to just send them an email. Hey guys, I've got an opportunity. We are a subcontractor. We could do part of it. I can see you've done, this is with HHS. I'm in conversation with the office, with the government office. If you want to talk about the opportunity, because I think you guys could be the prime on this one, let me know. Let's set up a call. What's going to happen there is they're going to respond and they're going to want to set up a call, right? I would say, I'd love to say 4 out of 5, maybe 3 out of 5, because they could miss this. You can go right to their website too and do something. And I've done that before very successfully. The big difference here, the reason this works is because you are bringing an opportunity to the prime. Okay. And so they're going to want to talk to you. You're not begging for work, which is what most people that look at government contracting in the early stages, they're like, yeah, I'm just going to email all these primes and tell them what I do. And I can see they've got these contracts. Look, they've already, when by the time you win a contract as a prime, you've got your subs lined up, or you should, right? And often the subs are named in the contract, right? So when you flip the script and you bring it to them, so much more likely to win. Okay. So this is the way that you actually win subcontracts. I'm sorry. I thought I was the prime and they were the subs. Sorry. I'm reading a comment here. Let's review. Okay. Just in case I can confuse anybody here. We're talking about 3 contract types uh, and hear me out. First, we talked about prime contracting. The prime contractor is the company that has a contract with the federal government. If I write the proposal, I have the contract, I'm the prime. And then if I need other companies to help me fulfill that, they are the subcontractors. And those subcontractors could be named in the proposal or not. Okay. Now, if I'm the subcontractor, this is what I'm describing. And this is often how companies get federal experience initially. You have a product or service you're selling, and you're looking for some of your first contracts. By the way, some companies exclusively do subcontracts, right? Exclusively. And they make millions and millions a year. So you can be a subcontractor and do extremely well without ever winning a prime contractor. Now, so the subcontract and the strategy I was just talking about is when we find that source of sought, that works for primes. You can do it as a prime, but you can also do it as a sub. So when we find that source of sought, and then we go to USA Spending and find prime contractors that can do the work, and then we reach out to them. Clear as mud. Okay. So, because what you're going to do, I didn't go through the whole process yet. What you're going to do next, once you get on a call with the prime, you are going to put together something called a teaming agreement. Essentially, we're just talking about a document. It doesn't have to be super long. It depends on how big the company is you're working with. It's just saying, hey, we're going to work together on this potential opportunity with the government. You found the opportunity. You are talking to the office, but now you're working with the prime contractor to win. And by the way, this has a lot of benefits, guys. You're drafting off of the past performance of the prime who's won a bunch of contracts. So you're not reaching out to a company that has never won a contract with the government. Don't do that. Right? That's a good way not to win. You want to draft off of these successful companies, right? And what you're bringing them is, look, even big companies don't have like huge sales teams. You'd be surprised how even a company like we just looked at that's doing 20 million a year, they might not even have one full-time sales executive. So you bringing them an opportunity, especially with an agency they've already sold to, that's gold. Okay. So you're going to go in there and, okay. Just wanted to make sure I answered your question there. So yes, that's the subcontracting method. Okay. So you wouldn't own the prime, but you would certainly, it is a great way to win some of your first contracts with the government as a sub. And then leveraging your past performance after you've worked a few, now you could start engaging, you're building those relationships, start winning some of those prime contracts afterwards. So can I submit a proposal as a sub? No. What you're doing is your proposal essentially is going to a prime. So you find that source of sought, just like we talked about. Okay. Then find 4 or 5 prime contractors, right? So if you're an SDV, OSB, or whatever your specialty is, right? Let's say it's construction. Maybe you're a roofer. And then you reach out to big construction companies, right? You find an opportunity for a big construction project that roofing is part of. Maybe it's with the VA, maybe it's with another agency. Then you reach out to 5 big construction companies with experience doing that work with the VA, all right? And you don't give them the opportunity. You just say, hey, I'm talking to the VA, which you are. You found a source of sought, you're emailing them, you phone call with them. Big opportunity coming up. We're a roofer. We just want to do the roofing piece. We need a prime. What do you think? Get on a call with them, teaming agreement. Then together you are going to write the proposal, but they are going to submit it, okay, and name you as a sub, hopefully, in the proposal if you do it correctly. And then when they win the contract, you're a named subcontractor, and that company gets paid by the government, and then that company pays you. So that's how that works. Now, As I've said, this is not the way to do it. We do not want to cold email these companies. Okay. So you don't want to just go on USA Spending and like, hey, I'm a roofer, and email every construction company. They're not, they're going to ignore you. Okay. Possible you'll get lucky if you send a couple thousand of those, maybe, but I doubt it. Okay. Now here's the big thing, and especially a lot of people that are looking at government contracting for the first time, they'll say, "Well, Rick, I don't actually have a business. Or maybe I started an LLC, but I'm not selling anything yet. I want to, I saw some videos on YouTube, and I just want to be the middleman. I want to find solicitations and match it with a sub. You do not want to do that, okay, at all. You could actually get into a lot of trouble doing that, but more likely than not, you'll just never win a contract. The government wants to hire people with past performance and experience. They don't want a middleman. I would never hire a middle as former government acquisitions officer. I can tell you right now, when people submit proposals for a project, usually, first of all, I've already been talking with them, right? The government has. But secondly, they're looking for the prime to have experience and to have a lot of it, and if they've never sold to the government before, at least I can look at their commercial perform. I could call people that they've worked for, it doesn't matter, technology company, services company, like where have you done work before, right? But here's the thing: if you're interested in government contracting, right? You're interested in this space. You want to learn about it. You're willing to do the work required to learn how to write proposals or understand business development, right? Which we teach extensively in GovClose. Well, the third option is, and this is the best option for companies that are not selling anything. So anyone out there, I want to start a business, but I'm not selling anything yet. I want in on government contracts. Forget about middleman. Forget about like being, bartering and finding solicitations and finding companies. You don't want to be in that business, but what you can do is you can be a consultant. You can help companies sell to the government, but you have to know what you're doing, right? You got to put the reps in, understand government contracting, understand what you're doing, work with some great people, develop your network. But you can sell directly to companies and have them pay you to assist you for certain things. Maybe you're a graphic designer and you want to help companies put capability statements together. Well, if you understand what a capability statement needs, right? Maybe a little bit of research on, CAPE statements, how the government uses them or not, right? What should be on there, what shouldn't be on there. You could just design CAPE statements for companies. That's kind of lower level. At the higher level, you could be troubleshooting government contracting problems. Let's say you have federal experience or experience in the military, you could help companies schedule meetings with different offices in the military, or you could help companies understand a particular problem set so they could better approach it. There's 1,000 different ways to attack consulting. Some people are cybersecurity experts, and that's all they do, right? When I started my consulting company, I focused very specifically on research, data analysis, and building strategies for companies. We got guys that have proposal writing businesses that are successfully selling to the government. So there are a ton of ways where you can make this work for yourself. And I want to make sure everyone understands it's not just for veterans, although veterans do very well here, right? It's not just for former federal employees, and we've talked about that. But you could have most people have a whole professional career, right? By the time they're my age, maybe they're looking for a second career, something they can do remotely, something they can do, whether they're in a cabin in the Smokies or in Greece or Portugal, right? You could do this from anywhere in the world. We have, in fact, GovClose certified students all over the world doing this. A lot in Europe, the Middle East, here. But young people are actually starting to come in too with no experience. They go through our program and they go out, and there's also high-paying account executive jobs on the other side of this. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the best contracts, or the 3 best contracts for small businesses. But I really wanted that to be an overview of the difference between a prime contract, a subcontract, and then potentially consulting, which is going to be a contract between you and a company, right, that you're helping in some way. And another thing that's nice about consulting is you getting paid is not associated with them winning a contract, right? You get paid upfront, or maybe half upfront, half in the back. If you have a monthly contract, you're getting paid each month. In fact, it's illegal to pay someone just for bringing you a contract, right? That's called a contingent fee. And the Federal Acquisitions Regulations has something called the Covenant Against Contingent Fees. I've covered that in other episodes, just so you know. We teach this in GovClose, certainly, if that's something anyone's interested in. We teach the whole government contracting process. And then for those that are interested in consulting, we have consulting business set up, how we price, how we attract clients, how we close, how we turn that into recurring revenue. So to recap here for everybody, what we talked about today, the 3 small business contracts, there's prime contracts, there's subcontracts. Now, for some of you that don't have any sales, you're not, no expertise necessarily, meaning you're not selling products or services commercially, consulting in the government contracting space could be a extremely rewarding and rich profession, career, or business for you. All right, guys. That is all I've got for today. Have a Merry Christmas, and we will see you next time.
After going through the course, I was able to land a client that pays me a monthly retainer to actually help them develop their business and go after these federal contracts.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community.
Within 2 months, I had my first client. So the initial contract was for a 3-month contract for $4,000 a month.
So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting, you've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal. Is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely probably my best investment I've made all year.
A cold call landed a 9-figure government contract.
Start a consulting business and a high salaried position as a account executive in public sales. So you're doing both of those things.
I'm living the best of both worlds right now.
So my name is Mike Knickerbocker. I am a naval officer that's getting ready to retire. Right now, I have 3 firm clients and 2 more perspectives. I'm able to provide value across different industries because the skill set that I learned through the course, I was able to apply my own experience.
GovClose came and it was a no-brainer. I wanted some secret sauce.
This has allowed me to live in Germany. It's a little hazy today, but we can do that. You see?
Oh yeah, dude, that's beautiful.
The content, the training, it's invaluable. It's written.
And Deb, what motivated you to join the GovClose certification program?
Wow. Well, I think that wanting to work with a leader in the field, someone who understands government contracting on a deep basis and has the reputation, the experience working with you and your company was a natural.
The students that graduate our program, they go on to start their own consulting firms, winning high dollar consulting clients. They go on to land high paying salaried positions as account executives with companies that sell to the government. I'm so proud of the people that have gone through our program. And if you are considering either a job or a business, and by the way, some of our students are doing both, as I did. They're running a consulting business and they'll have an account executive job. It's transforming their lives. It's bringing true wealth to them and their families. Back to the video.